It took them a while, but the penny finally seems to be dropping. At long last, the Tories appear to have worked out that endlessly making everyone's lives worse in pursuit of some sort of vague green dream is not wildly popular. Cash-strapped Brits don't actually want to pay expensive levies on their soaring energy bills. That, guess what? Hard-working people quite fancy carrying on with their annual holidays in the Mediterranean sun. That they can't afford to shell out for electric cars favoured by middle-class halo polishers. That they're keen to keep their far cheaper old-school petrol and diesel motors. That, frankly, replacing effective gas boilers with ineffective heat pumps isn't number one on most people's to-do list. In short, the Conservatives have stumbled upon the extraordinary realisation that making the nation poorer and colder might not be a political winner. Brilliant. Welcome to the real world. Meanwhile, over at Labour Towers, the all-out war on motorists continues apace after Keir's loyal deputy, Angela Rayner, assured a grateful country that charging drivers £12.50 for the privilege of driving their own cars is coming to every town and city. Great. So if the Tories offer you the chance of not coughing up 12 quid for your every journey, given the choice, who are you going to vote for? This could be a seismic moment in modern history, shaking the Westminster bubble to its very foundations. One party promising it will make you poorer and colder, the other pledging not to. Cut to a bemused Keir Starmer scratching his head, crying, "But I'm guaranteeing you a greener, fairer future." To which virtually all of us reply, "Don't care, we just want a cheaper future." Amazing that the massed ranks of Labour's twonks now readily admit that it was ludicrous London Mayor Sadiq Khan's self-harming Ulez obsession that cost them Boris's old constituency, Uxbridge and Ruislip. Without the manic mayor's mad ultra-low emission zone road charge, the Tories would never have clung on. Defeat at last week's by-election was inevitable. A Labour triumph was certain. But Khan insisted that clean air was more important than people making ends meet, and Labour paid the biggest price. This is potty politics. Never mind the harsh reality of millions struggling to get by. Here's £155,000 a year Sadiq Khan indulging in his favourite hobby, virtue signalling about green claptrap. Now, as the dark clouds of profoundly misunderstanding the electorate start to part, Tory Levelling Up Minister Michael Gove declares that we must not treat net zero like a religious crusade. Well, no, but hey, Michael, why don't you tell that to your green ideologue colleague, Grant Shapps? You know, the former Transport Secretary who imposed on an unsuspecting nation a nightmare matrix of cycle lanes and pedestrian walkways overnight under the cover of lockdown. We didn't vote for it, but Gormless Grant assumed we'd all be right behind these life-wrecking traffic schemes because they're supposedly great for the environment. Well, what a shocker. Turns out we'd rather not spend half our days sitting in gridlock jams that didn't exist until Grant and the gang decided to save the world. And if, unlike Shapps, the rest of the Conservative Party pursues the revolutionary concept of giving the people what they want as opposed to what they don't want, Labour's future may well be greener and fairer, but it won't be in Downing Street and it won't be in power. Nobody wants the Ulez expansion scheme, not if it's going to cost them a small fortune just to drive down the road. And memo to any party that thinks it can persuade us we'd be better off poorer, that we'd be happier when we're colder, good luck with that. Yeah. It's bizarre, isn't it, JJ, that the way the Labour Party is just saying, look, here's these policies. They're going to cost you a fortune, but we know you'll be very happy to pay them because you're saving the planet. Well, everybody wants to save the planet, but we can't afford hundreds of pounds levies on our energy bills, and we can't afford £12.50 for every time we get behind the wheel of our own cars.
I think it's criminal. I can't stand the Ulez expansion. I've been up to the High Court, the Royal Court of Justice, protesting it with loads of other people. We're completely against it. Same goes for low traffic neighbourhoods. Don't want them. Scrap them. It's a really bad idea. Sadiq Khan made the mistake of doing all these initiatives without checking with us locals first.
Yes.
We all said, no, we don't want it. He ploughed ahead with it anyway. And now Keir Starmer's making the same mistake, trying to roll it out for the whole country. Yeah. Ridiculous.
And there's a suspicion, Anna, that Sadiq Khan needs the money. That's why he's expanding Ulez. But also, he's very much an ideologue, and he has persuaded himself, I think, that people are right behind anything he does, as long as it helps the environment, as long as it saves the planet. Well, we are all right behind it, unless it costs us money. He's charging us a lot of money, and we don't want to pay it.
No, exactly. And I think he's been captured by this kind of climate ideology, and he's tried to perpetuate this across to people that really don't want it and they don't accept it. The public are very angry, especially at a time where, you know, you've got this cost of living crisis going on, energy bills are going up, everything's getting a lot more expensive. And now, to the expansion of Ulez, people are going to be very angry, and it's going to take more money out of people's pockets for something that just simply doesn't work. And it's all about virtue signalling, saying, I want cleaner air, I'm saving the planet. No, you're just annoying a lot of people and actually causing a lot of disruption in people's lives.
If he wants cleaner air, right, the underground is 30 times more polluted air-wise than our roads are. But he's not tackling that, is he? He's going to tackle us, the drivers. We pay to park our cars outside our own homes. It's ludicrous. And then we're going to have to pay to drive it round to the shops to do our weekly shop.
And, like, why are we not trying to improve our current infrastructures, like public transport, for example, rather than, you know, charging people to drive their own car? Like, you should be able to freely drive to wherever you want to. If you want to incentivise people not to drive, why don't you improve, you know, trains? That are constantly on strike, by the way, or public services.
Of course, goes without saying. But these politicians amaze me. You know, if you go back through history, you know, I remember, I'm old enough to remember when Margaret Thatcher brought in the poll tax. Everybody, all of her allies politically said, don't do this, Maggie. This is a really bad idea. But she, no, I'm going to do it. She very nearly lost power because of it. Riots all over the country. And there's a similarity between that attitude and Sadiq Khan. They double down on these policies that they must know are wildly unpopular. Nobody wants to pay £12.50 to drive down the road in their own car, do they?
No, absolutely not. Maybe Sadiq Khan has just surrounded himself with yes men and women who are saying, yes, Mr. Khan, yes, Mr. Khan, yes, Mr. Khan. I tell you, when we have the next mayoral election for London, I, at the moment, am more likely to vote for a Tory, and I'd never want to vote for a Tory, but I'd rather have a Tory in office who will stop the Ulez on day one than have Sadiq Khan.
And that's what's going to be really interesting going forward. If the two parties set themselves up, their stalls, one is saying, we're going to charge you a lot of money for our green dream. You're going to pay a lot of money on your energy bills. You're going to pay Ulez. And so that's one offer from the Labour Party. And if the other party says, we're not going to charge you anything, it could really put the cat among the pigeons. You'll find, Sadiq, people don't want to pay for this stuff. They really don't. Time now, though, for a bad ad. It's Danny Dyer.
No, Mum's at it again. It sort of looks like Coke. Yeah, it sounds like Coke. Come on, boss. What does it taste like? Well, it tastes just like chicken.
Well, that was Danny Dyer's first ever acting job. I'm not sure what Coca-Cola would think about him saying it tastes just like chicken. Fizzy chicken juice. Real winner, right?
But he's had the same masculine old man voice since he was a kid. That's insane. It sounds like he dubbed on his modern voice onto him as a child.
He's got a tremendous range as an actor.
No, clearly.
He can play any character you like, from a cockney to a cockney. Any character you like. Kevin's mean tweets, just the two. This one's funny. Kevin O'Sullivan is the worst presenter on TalkTV. He shouts about everything and was obviously ignored as a child. What do you mean? He slags off every job while sitting on his fat arse talking for a living. What do you mean I slag off every other job? What's he talking about? Slag off every... Dustman! I can't stand a dust. I hate that job. Bus driver! That's a job I can't stand. I absolutely... The airline pilot... Oh, the contempt I have for that job. I'm going to slag that job. What are you talking about? I mean, I might well be the worst presenter on TV, but I might shout about everything, but I was not ignored as a child.
Seems to think he knows your entire life.
What do you mean ignored as a child? Anyway, here's another one. It's got Vanessa Feltz in this one.
Oh.
It says, I think it's from the same person, actually. Watching Vanessa is a relief, as watching 2 hours of wine-addled artist Kevin O''s house, slurring and rambling, a barrage of unhinged attacks on the BBC. That's not actually an English sentence.
No.
Well, whoever you are, maybe next time you go to school, pay some attention. You know, my God. Anyway, you. Let's move on to... you've got some tweets.
I do have some tweets today.
Received from
So
adoring
I
fans.
got quite a few for a Telegraph piece that I did. Anna McGovern is as thick as a piece of At this point, if she tripped over a pavement, she would blame the curb for being woke.
Well, thank you, JJ. That was very nice.
I've got to say you're boring as well. Add that in.
Yeah, you've got one as well.
I've got one. Well, to put context in, as you like.
Yes.
Hanging out with Kevin.
Can you make your context a bit shorter than that?
Absolutely. I've now got more haters from being friends with Kevin. So, JJ Anciabi, spelled my name wrong, thank you, used to be all right, but he's morphed into a little Kevin O'Sullivan, going for dinner, going for drinks with the godfather of gammons.
Oh.
There you go. I told you.
Little Kevin O'Sullivan.
It was the last thing I'll do. I'll ruin your reputation. And I have. Let's go to a real ad. It's hard to know why any adult would want to sexualise children, to steal youngsters' innocence by filling their heads with graphic grown-up ideas about gender, porn, cross-dressing, transitioning and the like. I've yet to hear a cogent explanation as to why it's great for drag queens to tell stories to little kids. Why drag queens? Why do drag queens particularly want to tell stories to children? Plumbers don't, coppers don't, railway workers don't, shop assistants don't. So what's the big attraction for blokes who like to wear frocks and lots of makeup? Just asking. So good luck with Drag Queen Story Hour, but what actually is the point? What's it for? But far more worrying is the growing trend for state school teachers to climb aboard the woke wagon express, telling their pupils that there are 4,000 genders or whatever the current tally is, and keeping them up to speed on changing sex and masturbation. One mother in Suffolk was somewhat surprised when her 10-year-old autistic son had to fill out a form about these very adult topics, and she was told nothing by his school. As a result, her little boy became obsessed with masturbation. Isn't that special? Other shocking stories reach us about prepubescent pupils being taught about sexual positions and orgasms, not to mention critical race theories, the discredited system that insists all white people are the beneficiaries of unconscious bias. Even if they live in conditions of extreme poverty on sink estates, they prosper because of their white privilege. Fashionable nonsense that schools are constantly told not to brainwash kids with, but continue to do so. A school on the Isle of Man had to eject a drag queen who tried to remove from class a child who refused to accept there are 72 genders, opting to believe there are actually 2, as in male and female. Who's right? the drag queen or the kid who dared to question the questionable information he was being bombarded with. More to the point, why isn't the government moving to stop teachers imposing on formative young minds unscientific, unproved, fashionable hogwash? Whatever happened to teaching the basics, you know, English, maths, history, that sort of thing? Whatever happened to giving school kids the objective facts and then letting them make their own minds up, encouraging them to form their own opinions? Here's the question: do we have a generation of woke teachers busy brainwashing pupils with left-wing propaganda? Looks to me alarmingly as if we do. And if all we can hope for is that the brighter kids resist this prejudice-risible rubbish, we're in deep trouble. It's time that adults made a stand to protect our children. To paraphrase Pink Floyd, hey, teachers, leave them kids alone. You got kids? Well, you got a kid. You must be a bit worried about what's going on with
Absolutely.
schools.
I think it's got out of control now. Like, I never thought about this point before when you said we're not having police officers going to schools. If my bank manager said, I want to go into school and start reading to the kids, I'd be suspicious, but, well, why? Why do you want to do that? Yeah. So actually, for a drag queen to go and do it, there is no real point to it. It doesn't make actually any sense. And then there's stuff they're being taught in these schools now, parents are not being told about some children who identify as one gender at school and a different gender at home. Absolutely bizarre. If my school were doing that to my kid and I found out, I'd remove my child from that school.
Well, that is the problem, and you know you're not even that long out of school, are you? That teachers are taking it upon themselves to impart to kids all of these fashionable theories. Critical race theory, you know, you might believe in it, but you don't have to. It's certainly not a fact. White privilege is not a fact, and it must be very confusing for little white kids who live on sink estates who haven't got a penny to rub together. It must be confusing when teachers say, you're privileged, and then you get all of the sex education as well. These are worrying times. Teachers have taken it upon themselves to impart sort of some kind of liberal, weird, woke agenda, and the government don't want them to do it, and yet they're doing it.
Exactly. And I worked at a school actually where you would have young people come to the teachers and say that they identify as a different gender. So, for example, at the boarding school I used to work at, there were two students who came forward and said, you know, so they're two biological females who said, I identify as a man. And they let them have the transition, and like, you know, they gave themselves like male names and were going by them at school, and the parents did not know. They did not tell the parents. They hid it from the parents.
Terrible.
And we were all told that if we were communicating with the parents to actually use what they would refer to as their dead name. So they were actively hiding this information from the parents while their kids were attending the school, which I think is horrific.
So we've had JJ, the kids identifying as cats.
Yeah.
And recently, my personal favourite, a kid identifying as a mushroom, and teachers going along with it. I would suggest the teachers just stop being so stupid. You're not a cat. Yeah. You're not a mushroom. Now get on with your work.
Absolutely.
I mean, what happened to discipline? Teachers need to stand up to these kids. 100%. Half the kids are just messing around anyway.
Yeah, like, I know society's evolved and changed and everything else, but there's some stuff that we did in the past that it's still good, and we should still be adhering to those standards today. If I was in my school as an 8-year-old boy saying to my teacher, excuse me, Mrs. Moss, I actually think I'm a girl, she said, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You're a boy. Take it up to your mum and dad if you want to talk about that kind of stuff. It's nuts.
That is the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
That, you know, your kids turn out how they turn out, but I'm not a parent, but if I had kids at school, I'd like the teachers to be giving them objective information, teaching them the facts, and encourage them to make their own minds up about it. Instead, I think right now they're being told, this is a fact, you are a cat, you are a mushroom, here's some information about sex and orgasms, even though you're only 9 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all wrong.
If you had a kid, a girl, because it's normally women who are low on confidence, if you had a girl in school who says to the teacher, I'm really low on confidence, I feel like I'm worthless, I'm going to be walked over my whole life, you'd say to that pupil, no, you're not. You're worth it. You are great. You're this and blah, blah. But a kid goes and says, I think I'm a mushroom. They say, yeah, you are a mushroom. Yeah, that's it. It's absolutely bonkers.
Well, they'll affirm it without any challenge just because they've been so captured by gender ideology that they think that they have to just accept it. When a child comes forward and says something ridiculous like that without actually posing a challenge and just saying, no, you're not.
Yeah, when I was at school, the teachers would just get out of here.
Stupid
kid. That's what they should say again. Time for Vote For Me. Well, there's a few presidential candidates over there in the States, but none more interesting than American pastor E.W. Jackson, who has announced he's running to be the Republican candidate for the White House. Let's have a look.
If I become president of the United States, another assignment I'm going to give the Justice Department is to investigate Anthony Fauci. And you had people bowing down to him like he was God. And he was full of the devil. I don't care what George Soros' background is. I care what his soul is like, and his soul is full of evil. I support Israel and the Jewish people, but I do not support George Soros because George Soros is of the devil.
So do you think he's going to make the grade? Do you think he's the next president of the United States of America?
I am not so sure.
I'm slightly doubtful. I'm slightly doubtful of E.W. Jackson's chances.
Not so sure about that.
What do you reckon there, JJ?
No chance. He's even more mad than our politicians are, which is it's a hard task, but he has done it.
He's done it.
He doesn't care about the person's politics. He cares about their soul. That's what every voter wants to hear, isn't it? What's their soul like, though?
Yeah.
It's evil.
Yeah,
okay.
well, at least he's not dealing with you, Les. Right, we're going to move on to a bad ad.
When entering the world of art, you'd be smart to dress the part. Gentlemen prefer Hanes. With all the ladies draped in crepe, the artist loves the human shape. Gentlemen prefer Hanes. Hanes will make you smooth and silky, shapely, sexy. Wear a pair and you could be captured for posterity. Gentlemen prefer Hanes.
Gentlemen prefer Hanes. What, you mean they want to wear them? We were talking about drag queens earlier.
Yeah.
Do drag queens prefer Hanes, you think, JJ?
Those tights, those Hanes, they're so sheer. I didn't notice she was even wearing them.
It's just astonishing product.
I know. I thought it was an advert about her hair.
Yeah. She wasn't took the hat off. I was like, so this is about...
Looks like a pom-pom.
Yeah, that's great.
Those adverts over in America, there's something, aren't they?
Amazing.
I wonder where that comes from. I mean, was that 1970s or something like that?
Yeah. Gentlemen prefer Hanes. But it doesn't make any sense. The whole hat thing was then distracting. Yeah. Then she's sitting in front of a portrait of herself in the dress.
Yeah. And I like, it's
about legs.
But it's a product for women. It's tights. Gentlemen prefer.
Oh, yeah.
Just look, I like them. Yeah. So buy Hanes, folks. The ideal tights. That's it for another show. Thank you very much to social and political commentator Anna McGovern and the other guy, JJ Anna COB. Thanks for coming. We'll be back next week.
I'm Mike Graham and this is TalkTV. You know what we're going to do now, don't you? It's Plank of the Week time. We do it every Friday night. It goes out at 7 p.m. and you don't want to miss it. Do you know why? Because it includes all of the people that you love to hate. It might even include some of the people that you love to love. It might be Harry and Meghan. It might be Sadiq Khan. It could be a football team. It could be the Prime Minister. It could be the Leader of the Opposition. It might even be someone up in Scotland. You never know. Watch us every Friday, 7 p.m.